Because when you find that man who's used to being around beautiful women, guess what you're also doing? You're competing with several other women for him.
Yeah.
That in lies the evolutionary mismatch that we're in right now, where there's a small group of men at the top.
One thing that you said in a video that I really, really loved, I was obsessed with this. You said, stop giving attention to women because you are attracted to them. Elaborate on that.
Jessica, like if you won Pulitzer, right? You did something incredible. That's something I would like on Instagram. That's awesome. If you paid off a house, if you were, if you got drafted the first pick in the WNBA, that's something I would like. But what do we do as men instead? We look at pictures of boobies and butts, and then we like those pictures. Why are we doing that?
Yeah.
Just when you do that, what you're doing, when you give women attention for non-contextualized images of sexuality, all you're doing as a man is lowering your value. I live in Las Vegas, so I know this is a bit of an anomaly. But I have several friends of mine, female friends that live here, and they'll tell me they'll have guys paying them to go on dinners with them, pay them to go out to the yachts on vacation. And sometimes these women will be sugar babies, right? They'll get their rent paid for on a regular basis. And in every one of these cases, these women laugh at those men behind their back. They tell me, haha, my sugar daddy did this, blah, 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 whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then in almost every one of these cases, you know what else, Jessica? These same women will have a second man who they do have sex with, and that guy doesn't compensate them at all. So they'll have one guy who compensates them and they laugh at him behind their back, and another man who doesn't do anything for it, and she has sex with him. And so when you see that over and over again, it just gets to the point where like you have a hard time trusting people. You know what I'm saying? That's where it happens. What was the original question?
What, you can't give attention to women because they're attractive. Yeah.
So it goes back to what I was saying. These guys are giving women money and resources that in exchange for validation, right? Meaning they could not get attraction from this woman regularly. So they're using money as a crutch. And in doing so, they're lowering their value. This is something especially as a performance coach, often when I have men who have an addiction to prostitution, this is one of the things I have to wean them off of. They think that because they pay women for sex and then they're like cool, funny guys, that they're like, it's a blend of like, I have game and I pay women for sex. No, if you pay women for sex, it's a problem. It's a serious problem that you have to get help with. And often we see it's, wealthy men or professional athletes that are doing this. And what was the thing Lil Wayne said one time? It ain't tricking if you got it. Yes, it's still tricking even if you got it. And so what will happen is these men will give attention and resources, so money, likes, comments, to women solely for their physical attractiveness, not because they earned it. In every case, whenever I meep a woman, I host several bikini competitions here in Las Vegas. You will never hear me say, look at these sexy ladies, ever. These women are so hot.
And so if that's the case, and it's a bikini contest, it's based off of looks. How are you?
To me, they're athletes. I introduce them like they're professional wrestlers coming down the aisle. That's how we change the music for each one of them. That's how I do it.
We just had Corey Graves on the show. We'll make sure that he knows this.
Yeah. So we do that. And the reason why is because in a bikini competition, I don't need to objectify or sexualize women. People are doing that on their own. I don't need to do that. It doesn't help the situation at all. What I would prefer is if men could treat, if your buddy got a raise at his job, you're like, hey, bro, drinks are on you. Good job, bro. Why can't you treat women the same way? And if you did, you'd be surprised at how much more attractive you would be. Because what happens now is that this woman comes to the realization that I can't get him to stare at my boobs. I do it with every other guy, but for some reason, this guy, I got to work so much harder to get his attention. And so his value goes up. It's really difficult for most men to understand. Yeah, it does. It's crazy. But the thing is, Jessica, if a guy likes you, why couldn't he say, hey, you're an interesting person. Tell me more about your life, your family. Why does it always have to be about your physical attraction? The thing is, while that, he may find you physically attractive, don't so many others? You get guys sliding your DMs all the time. How does that make him any different? And him giving you those compliments, while it may make you feel better, it does not raise your opinion of him, right? Again, it doesn't, like a man consistently giving you compliments. Again, ladies, if you just make this one change, you'll stop confusing men. Instead of saying, I want compliments from a man, instead saying, I want compliments from a man I'm attracted to. I want flowers from a man. No, you don't. You want flowers from a man you're attracted to. You want vulnerability from a man. No, you don't. You want vulnerability from a man you're attracted to. If you can make that differentiation, instead of saying, oh, I just want guys to come up, and if a guy would just ask me out. No, if homeless people came up on the street and asked you out, you wouldn't go out with them. You want a man you're attracted to.
It depends at what point in my life, Michael. There was a time. There was a time I had zero standards.
Hey,
so
listen,
let's give them the benefit of the doubt.
We were in college once. He seemed nice. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He listened to me. He really saw me as a person.
He heard me when I needed.
Please, nobody clip this. Nobody clip this. Yeah.
And that's an interesting dynamic. Like, I know I'm not ugly, but I also know my personality is way better than my looks could ever be.
Sure.
So, if you're trying to make a first impression, and men are physical beings, no matter how you slice it. And like, you do go on the dating apps. I haven't been on the dating apps in a while because they stress me out. But like, how do you make a good first impression without, the looks are important. So how do you find the balance of making a first impression where you want them to get to know you, but you also have to present yourself in a certain way physically?
I'm getting stressed out just you asking the question, because it is so complicated when you think about that whole situation. It's really one of these weird situations. So men have several leverage points when it comes to creating attraction with women. It can be their status. It can be their height, their eye color, their facial structure. It can be how famous they are, how much money they have. It can be their social alignments, how funny they are, or how much charisma they have. Just think about Madden or MLB The Show. Each player has different attributes: speed, acceleration. Men have so many different attributes, and they can attract women. A man can be short and
they want to create a player. They want to create a player.
Exactly. And then exactly. But then you end up with like Chris Pine, who's like funny, good looking, or someone like that. Jason Momoa, right? Someone like that, who's like, he's 99 and all these, he's wealthy, high status, all these kind of things. And that's what we want. But for women, it's really crazy because they have this one leverage point over men that exceeds every leverage point that men have over women. And that is their physical attractiveness. It's great. And it causes men to do crazy things. Great book by Dr. David Buss called The Murderer Next Door. And he goes over the concept of how many murders are committed by men competing with other men over women. It's one of the craziest things. Like Aaron Clary, who's an economist who came on my show recently, he was talking about the entire economy is fueled by female youth and beauty. Not females, but female youth and beauty. That's what men compete with other men for higher sexual selection and higher status. And it's just it's one of these crazy things where it's like, I want to tell women, hey, just do this with your personality and have these conversations. And you know as well as I know, Jessica, you have some female friends who are knockouts, and they could just sit there and just have bad breath, talk about crazy shit, tell you the earth is flat, whatever. And the dude's like, yeah, I'll still go out with her. Like, I don't give a I'll still go out. And that's what's happened in the dating market now. What's happened more, and by the way, this epidemic is just going to get worse. In the last, there's some stats that go up about a third of, and by the way, these stats go up to 2018. Obviously, the pandemic kind of threw some of these statistics off. But going up to 2018, from 2008 to 2018, we saw the number of sexless men rise precipitously. About 1 in 3 men between the ages of 18 and 24 are still a virgin, or have had no sex in the last year. It was something like 18% of men between the ages of 18 to 30 had zero sexual partners, and something where in the area of like 28% of men were virgins up to the age of 30, some crazy number like that. There was this bottom quartile of men that were not participating in dating whatsoever. And because of that, then you get into a situation where your pretty girlfriend, the dude will just do anything to go out with her. And because these men don't have any abundance. So here's the thing. Here's the irony. A man who was around a lot of beautiful women, Jessica, is more likely to want to get to know you because the beauty doesn't affect him as much. A man who's not around beautiful women as much. My girlfriend is, very attractive. She was a bartender. We would get into arguments about things. She would FaceTime me and she'd be like, well, everyone here at the bar agrees with me, Michael. And I'm like, you're a 22-year-old super hot girl with blue eyes and big fake. Like, of course they're going to agree with you. Like, what are you talking about? Even when she was right, people still agreed with her, but not because she was right, but because she was pretty. And so that's this thing that happens as men have less and less scarcity. They're concern themselves more and more with physical attractiveness because they have less and less access to that physical attractiveness. That's what the irony is. The irony is, like, it actually is the man who has abundance who's probably going to do more to be willing to get to know you because beauty is common to him. Beauty is common to him. And that probably is. And so now here's this double-edged sword, because when you find that man who's used to being around beautiful women, guess what you're also doing? You're competing with several other women for him. That in lies the evolutionary mismatch that we're in right now, where there's a small group of men at the top. Was a doctor, professor, oh gosh, I forget his name right now. He was saying something to the effect of dating was a country, it'd be Venezuela. Like the level of inequity where there's a small group of men at the top having all the success. The way I like to describe it from a statistical standpoint is there's a top 15% of men that are getting outrageous amounts of attraction and validation from women. There's women below that. And then there's the bottom 85% of women, bottom 85% of men. Those bottom 85% of men are pursuing the women, and those women are pursuing the top 15% of men.
So it's like a pyramid.
It is kind of like a pyramid. But the problem is when you say, do men or women cheat more? The question you need to ask is low status men and high status men. There needs to be different numbers for them. And women, it's you don't necessarily need different numbers, but you need different numbers for high status men and low status men. Do men or women cheat more? A guy who's a billionaire or who was a rock star, the statistics for him cheating are quite different than the guy who's the assistant manager at a Walmart. It's just very different.
Yeah.
Because when women want to have an affair, sex manifests for them. Often men want to have affairs and nobody wants to have sex with them, Jessica. That happens all the time. So it's a very different thing that's going on there. So I like to say there's three genders. There's high status men, women, and low status. And so that makes it a lot simpler, because what women will do frequently is that they'll complain about a characteristic of a high status man who treated them poorly, and then they'll blame all men for that. But no, it's not all men. There's men down here in this bottom 85% that would treat you like a princess. The problem is they're not as tall as the outfielder you used to date. And they're not as rich as Drake that one time you fucked it. And they're not as cool as that one movie star that slipped in your DMs. They're not quite at that level. And so your perception is that they don't stand out.